What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I got another in the studio episode for you guys, and it's something that somebody just asked about, and frankly I guess I just completely had a brain fart and didn't talk about it, and it is something that is obviously needed to be discussed. So before we jump into that, a couple things here. First, hey, thanks for watching the channel. We're growing nicely, moving along. I'm keeping videos going. Hope you guys appreciate that. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, tap the little bell on one of these sides, tap the little bell so you'll stay notified when I upload a new video, because you don't want to miss them, all right? Secondly, I'm not drinking no British tea tonight. I've got the good old-fashioned Bulleit 10-year, actually. Channeling my inner John Dutton here. I've seen on the show, I think he drinks quite a bit of Bulleit on Yellowstone. Got a little Bulleit on the rocks in my LH Farms. I doubt this will show up on the camera. LH Farms cups. You know, I love it. I love it. So, the episode tonight, or whenever you're watching it, it is nighttime here. It's actually 9:30 at night. Got to do what you got to do to get these episodes in. But I'm going to go over something. I had a guy ask about, you know, how do I go about buying equipment? And I was like, man, that's actually a really simple question that I can't believe I haven't really covered. I covered it in, again, the No BS Guide to Row Crop. I do go over it in that. If you want a long form version, go check that video out. And it's got a lot of information in it, and I do discuss buying equipment. But the route I wanted to go with this one, buying equipment and kind of the total input package, like, so you've bought the farm or you have rented land. We're not going to go over real estate in this episode. We're assuming you have the real estate, whether you purchased it or rented it. That's where we're going with this one. We're skipping that. You're already at that point. You've got the land. Now you need the equipment, you need the chemical, you need the seed. What do you do? Okay, so first, on the equipment side, most of these companies, whether it be Farm Credit or going through the Farm Service Agency, through the USDA, they will probably have some smaller equipment loans. I know that FSA has linked in there with their Young Farmer program. They've got, gosh, if I remember right, you could get $600,000 for real estate, and I'm thinking you could get about $1 million for equipment. Don't do that. Do not go into $1 million of debt right out the gate. That is a terrible, terrible idea. Not on equipment. Hey, you want to do that on land? In the next video, I probably will talk about that. But don't do that on equipment. You do not want to go diving off into equipment. A lot of guys break themselves on equipment. Equipment can be really dangerous because equipment is so awesome. I mean, it's just, I've talked about it before. One of the allures to farming is the bad to the bone equipment. But it will get you in trouble. And there's something cool about getting old equipment and fixing it up. My latest semi-truck being an example. It's a 1981, if I remember right. 1981 Peterbilt 359. And it is a pimp ride. I love that truck. It needs a lot of work. Just ordered some stuff for today. Sneak teaser for you guys for some future videos. Got some fenders, visor, other things coming for that truck. So it's getting some TLC. That's like a very random side note. Guess that's a preview, foreshadowing. But don't be stupid with equipment. There are smaller loans. You can do micro loans. Sometimes, you know, I think $50,000 or less are considered the micro loans. Now on the Farm Credit side, you're going to have something like Farm Credit, or you could have Ag Direct. I do a lot with Ag Direct. Ag Direct is a branch through Farm Credit, and it's very similar. I mean, it's really simple to get financed at this point. Now, sometimes you may have to put 10% down. So starting out, that might not be a very good option for you. But again, start small. Guys, I'm going to emphasize this as much as I possibly can. Start small. Unless you have just found yourself thrust into about 1,000-acre operation, try to tiptoe. You know, that first couple years, let's work 100 acres. If you can get 100 acres, let's work 100 acres. Don't try to jump off into 1,000. I'm telling you, you will get in over your head very quickly. So start off small, buy old equipment, buy a minimal amount of equipment that you need. I'm a no-till guy. I don't do tillage unless it is 100% necessary, and about the only time that it is ever that necessary is when I am returning a farm to ag and I have to go in there and till the ground up after doing a lot of dozer and traco work. Otherwise, I really don't do any tillage. And that's great because I don't have to have any tillage equipment. Get a planter, get a tractor, there you go. Now you're going to need a sprayer and all that. You will kind of iron out your equipment. I'm just going to tell you how you buy it. And you're going to be looking at your main ag lenders. Do not be afraid of your bank. I want to add that too. If you have a trusted bank that you use and you have a good relationship with the banker, don't be afraid to contact them about buying it. I bought several pieces of equipment through my bank. My banker actually had farming experience, and I called him my first combine. I just called him. I went and looked at a combine. And again, I want to preface this by saying I did not have a lot of cash in the bank. I don't want anybody watching these to think, well, if you got the capital, yada, 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 you can do these things. I didn't have any capital. I was a dude straight out of being a machinist. I made decent money, but I never had a lot of money afterwards. So I didn't have a large checking account waiting that the bank could say, well, if he can't make this payment, we're covered. I didn't have that. But I did have a good relationship with my banker, and he understood the value of farm machinery. And so first combine I looked at, it was a 9760 John Deere, and I went and looked at it. We drove down the road. I called my banker, told him what he wanted, told him what it was, and he said, write him a check, and then we were ready to rock and roll. Now, I'm in a small kind of rural town. I realize that's getting more and more rare these days. You don't have a lot of banks that will operate like that anymore. I'm thankful for that. But if you do not be afraid to look. And I say that because there's some different things. I'm going to lay out something to think about here, because your interest rates might be higher. If you go with USDA, you're going to get better interest rates. You might get a 2 or 3% interest rate on your loan. That's killer. That is a killer interest rate. Whereas, especially right now on some of these others, you might be looking at a 5 to 7% interest rate. That's pretty tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. Now, the USDA one, it's pretty much going to be a pain in the butt because you're going to have to do a boatload of paperwork. If you can keep it under that $50,000 or less mark, you can get sort of the micro loan where it's not as bad, but I would still be prepared for a major headache. And again, as I've said in other videos, they will take a lien out on like anything they possibly can. Meaning they're liable to take a lien out on your pickup truck. If you buy a combine or something else, they might take a lien out on your pickup. When you go to sell your pickup or trade it in, you might not be able to because they have a lien on it, and the only way to get that free would be to pay off your combine, and you could find yourself in a real deep doo-doo. So be cautious going with FSA. It's kind of the thing. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And I'm not saying that's always the case with FSA. I had some good dealings with them over the years, but I've had some pretty annoying run-ins with them as well on that. So pick and choose wisely. The part with the bank, here's one of the cool deals. This is something I had done in the past. On the combine, I was scared to do your standard like 5-year, because if you buy something old, 5 years is going to be the maximum. They might not, if you get really old, your banker might be struggling to go beyond 3 years. Hopefully you can get them to press it to 5-year financing. If it's pretty darn new, like a couple years old, they can stretch it to 7 years. but we ain't looking that new. Remember, we're starting small. So 5 years financing, even with that on my combine, I was scared. I wasn't working a whole lot of acres. So, I mean, I was nervous with it. Equipment makes me nervous. Buying land, for some reason, doesn't really make me nervous. But what I did with my banker, I told him, I said, man, you know, I don't really want to have like a set number. I'm kind of nervous with this, yada, yada, yada. He said, here's what we'll do. We're going to set up essentially a bridge loan where it's a 1-year loan. At the end of the year, you've got to set, so you'll have an established interest rate and like your note and then the interest rate. Now, your interest rate might be 5 or 6 or 7%. It's going to be a pretty good chunk of interest. At the end of the year, you pay as much as you can. Now, you got to pay all the interest, but you want to pay extra. Now, you could literally just pay the interest, but you would be getting just destroyed because you don't want to do that because you're never making any headway on the equipment. So the benefit to this is in a good year, you can pay as much as you want. In a bad year, let's say you had an absolutely catastrophic year, you could just pay the interest and you'd keep your machine and you'd stay afloat. That's the benefit. In a worst case scenario, all you got to do is pay the interest. Versus if you have a loan through another one of these establishments, they may not do a bridge loan deal like that, and you're going to have to pay the interest plus principal, or you're going to have to do some refinancing. So consider the bridge loan option as well. If you kind of go, if you're getting a little scared and you have a banker that'll do it, I'm never afraid to do a bridge loan on something like that. But again, AgDirect, your local bank, Farm Credit, FSA, these are all options for how you can finance your equipment. Hopefully that helps you out there. Some of the Farm Credit, the Growing Forward program, and the Young Farmers thing, the benefit to those is I don't really believe you have to have a down payment. That's what's going to help you on those. With the bank, you will most likely have to put down 10, 15, 20%. So there is a give and a take there, something to consider. Now the other option, or not really an option, but the other thing that you will most likely need, most every farmer I know has it, I have always had it, and that is a line of credit. And this is essentially the lifeline of the operation. I don't have deep pockets. Most farmers that I know don't have, some of them that I know have deep pockets. Most of them that I know don't have a disposable amount of income where they can finance their entire operation without borrowing money. The way most farmers work is they have a line of credit that they borrow from throughout the year to buy things for the farm, and then at the end of the year they have to pay this off. Now, you can do this through Farm Credit, FSA, your local ag lender. Most of them have a line of credit. Your companies, Helena, Nutrien, whatever, I think even Farmers Business Network, a lot of those now offer lines of credit. Now, those are going to be specific for inputs. The cool part to an FSA or Farm Credit one or another ag lender is you can use it for anything. You know, if you blow a tire on your big truck, you need a new tire, and you can use your line of credit to replace that tire. You can do that. If you blow a motor in the tractor, you can pay out of your line of credit to fix that. Now, you don't want to get stupid with this because you've got to pay it back. Now, there's a couple different options. The benefit, here was kind of the funny thing, I joke with my wife. Farm Credit's line of credit is so easy to do, and it's a revolving line of credit is what it's called, or an RLOC. And basically it's got a set interest rate. You do pay interest on it. If you start drawing out of it early at the year, it's going to build up some interest rate, and at the end of the year you want to pay it down to $1. You never want to pay it completely off because it'll kill the line of credit and you got to reset it back up. It's a revolving line. Now, in a bind, you could not pay off that down to $1. Like, let's say you went into the year and you took a hit and you were $30,000 short, you could essentially leave $30,000 owed in your line of credit. The bad thing is you roll into the next year, you start out that year $30,000 short on your line of credit. So it's a dangerous game. You don't want to live by that. You really want to pay your line of credit down to $1. But I know some farmers, I mean, they operate and they live out of a line of credit throughout the year. They might have some cash from the farm, but they essentially live off their line of credit all year until the end of the year. And your line of credit is something you'll establish with your lenders. You'll have to sit down, go over your expenses, because you will pay some of your notes, more than likely. You might pay some notes out of your line of credit. You'll again pay this at the end of the year. But farming's an interesting job in that most of your income comes in at one time of the year. I mean, 98% of my income comes in the fall during harvest. So if I have big notes due or something early in the year, I either have cash that I've put back for those notes, or I may just pay them out of my line of credit, and then I'll take care of that at the end of the year. Again, you're going to pay interest on that, so you gotta weigh those options. But a line of credit is the lifeline of the farm. You are going to be operating on borrowed money all year. And again, unless you just have crazy deep pockets and you get into it and you have the money to do this. But when you talk about on a 1,000-acre operation, or even a 500-acre operation, you might have $300,000 or $400,000 worth of inputs. That's seed, chemical, fertilizer. So if you're spending that much money, I mean, I don't have that kind of cash to pump into the year. Maybe you do. If you do, you're the man or gal. I don't care, whatever you are. But something to consider there. That's how most of us operate, a line of credit. And you guys got to see, you're going to have to start small. Most of your lenders will not give you a large line of credit to begin with. So again, it's why you don't really want to find yourself thrust upon 1,000 acres, because your lenders are going to be leery of this. If you show up, you're like, man, I just got 1,000 acres. I have zero agriculture background. I have zero financial history with this. And I don't have jack squat to put up, yada, yada, yada. They're going to say, man, how much do you need? And you're like, well, I'm working 1,000 acres. I'm going to need about $1 million worth of line of credit. There ain't a chance in the world you're going to get that. So build slowly, but a line of credit will be your best friend. Be smart with it. Don't be stupid. A line of credit can also get you in trouble. The differences of going through FSA and something like Farm Credit is the freedom. FSA is very, very controlling. When you want to use your line of credit, unless they've changed, I haven't used a line of credit through FSA in quite some time. The minute I could get away from them with that, I did. Because let's say I had a blowout on the truck. I would have to go, get it fixed, pay for it, and then get the receipt, and then send the receipt into FSA, and then they would approve the money, and then the money would go into my account like a couple days later. So with Farm Credit, when I got a line of credit with them, they sent me in the mail a checkbook, a credit card, and they got an app online where you can transfer cash. I joke with my wife, and I'm like, we could go buy a Lamborghini right now if we wanted to. Bad thing is, I would have to pay for it at the end of the year, and that'd be a different story in itself. But lines of credit, they can be pretty awesome. You're going to need them, and just don't be stupid with them. That, in a nutshell, is how you're going to operate over the course of your buying your equipment. Again, you're going to talk to those lenders. Try to start small, start old. 100 acres or so, you can use old equipment. I would use like a 4000 series John Deere tractor. Sorry guys, I'm not much on red tractors. I've got an old 1066. It was my dad's. It's a beast. I love that old tractor. It's just something nostalgic. It's like some old classic muscle. But we got a 5488 that I hate. I'd like to just push it off into the river. I'm not a red tractor guy. I pretty well bleed green, and my 8420 would rip that 1066 in half, would rip the 5488 in half. If you're a red guy, just don't ever try a green tractor because it'll change your life. But anyways, get you an old 4000 series John Deere. And here's where I do like some red. The planting equipment, I like red. Get you a soybean special 5400 drill, and then a tractor with that drill, 15 or 20 foot drill, you could plant the freaking parking lot in Walmart and you would get a stand of beans. So start small, start smart like that. Do not overextend yourself. Don't be a dummy. That's where you want to start, guys. I hope that answered your question. I can't remember who it was that messaged me and asked about buying equipment or something, but a line of credit. Talk to your lenders about line of credit. Talk to your dealers about a line of credit. If you can set up a line of credit with your dealer as well, then you won't need as large of a line of credit with your lender. And it'll just keep you want to kind of keep your feelers out there. Like, some people will tell you to only have one line of credit. I like to keep my foot in the doors. You know, you don't want to, which I use Helena line of credit pretty heavily, and I use my Farm Credit line of credit. Farm Credit line of credit. That was a lot of credit. I use that also very heavily. So kind of, you know, don't put your eggs all in one basket. But guys, that is it for this video. I'm trying to keep it from being like 30 years long, but let me know in the comments below if that helps you, if that confuses you, if you'd like for me to go into something a little more deeply with that. Please let me know in the comments below. If this helps you, let me know. And please send me some more ideas of things you'd love for me to talk about. I enjoy doing this. I want to see more people get into agriculture. If I can offer any sort of guidance or wisdom whatsoever, I don't consider myself a wise man, but if I have anything to offer, please ask, and I'd love to share it. Guys, thank you so much. Please hit that like button, hit subscribe. We'll catch you next time.